Everyone has a story, and here's mine. My name is Yvonne Garcia, but everybody calls me Bonnie. And I want to share my journey from my humble beginnings to entrepreneurship. It began on the south side of San Antonio, where we lived a block away from my abuelitos and tías. I was the baby of the family, and my mom would always say, ¿De dónde salió esta? Where did this one come from? I was always a little different from my siblings. According to her, I was more adventurous, outgoing, and yes, fearless. So I guess that was the beginning. Early in life, I found that being fearful could be paralyzing, and that in order to overcome fear, you have to want something bad enough. The choice is yours. You can stay in your comfort zone or choose to envision what's possible and take the T out of can't and believe you can. And you can do this one courageous step at a time. I chose to overcome fear, and along the way I learned some very valuable lessons that guided my journey. It really started in high school. I went to Catholic school from kinder to 8th grade and then to Burbank High School, given it was a block away from my house. My freshman class, of course, came from feeder schools, so I didn't really know anyone. So I decided to get involved and step out of my comfort zone and try out for everything. Dance team, drill team, cheerleader, class officer. And because I overcame my fear of not fitting in, I learned some very valuable lessons: team building, camaraderie, discipline, and leadership. After high school, my dad wanted me to continue my education, but I decided to go to work and got a job in retail at Josky's Men's Budget Basement. I worked with two sweet ladies, Big Mary and Little Mary, and every day I heard them say, "What are you doing here? You need to go to college." Well, after a few months of that, I realized they were right. So I applied at UT Austin and surprised my parents with my letter of acceptance. While they were happy, I knew they couldn't help me financially. So the lessons I learned while at UT were I needed to have a strong work ethic and manage my finances and work hard to secure financial aid, student loans, and scholarships to continue my education. While working odd jobs, I decided I wanted to be a DJ, given I had a gift for gab and loved music. So I took the initiative to put a demo together and applied at the #1 station at the time, Disco 98, KHFI, FM Austin, which is how I worked my way through college, my junior and senior year. After graduating, the station was sold and they fired all the disc jockeys, including me. So I applied at KTFM here in San Antonio and became the first Latina DJ in the city, and continued to hone my skills in radio production, promotions, and events. While at KTFM, I also learned to overcome my fear of speaking in front of large audiences when they asked me to MC the Michael Jackson concert. My heart has never pounded so hard as I walk backstage to the dressing room and meet Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. Not to mention go on stage in front of thousands of people at the Alamo Dome to introduce him. I knew then that if I could do that, I could do anything. While at KTFM, my dad, who was my biggest fan, passed away. And I found that the one thing I couldn't do was go back on air without him listening. So I made a career choice and moved to work as program director for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, where I learned the importance of nonprofit organizations and giving back to our community. But I also learned about targeted marketing. At the time, MDA was not a diverse organization, and fundraising efforts were very traditional, like bowl-a-thons, skate-a-thons, walk-a-thon, every-a-thon possible. So living in a city that's 60% Hispanic, I proposed a different angle, a fundraising event that would appeal to our demographic. As Hispanics, we love great food, music, dancing, and events our kids can enjoy. So I put on the first Halloween fajita cook-off at Market Square and raised more money in one weekend than in 6 months of the traditional marketing efforts. This is where I learned the importance of marketing to culture. Working with MDA, I met a number of marketing executives from different companies and was intrigued with their roles as marketers. So when a recruiter called, I answered and got my first position with corporate America, initially in college marketing, followed by regional manager of Hispanic marketing for Texas, and ultimately national director of Hispanic marketing, moving to corporate headquarters in Detroit, all in the span of 2 years and at the age of 25. I spent 3 cold winters in Detroit, and at that point I was ready for a move. Again, a recruiter called with job opportunities at Coke and Pepsi. I interviewed for both, but made the decision to move to the #1 soft drink in the world, Coca-Cola. I applied and interviewed for Hispanic Community Relations Manager and Director of Hispanic Marketing. My dream was a director position, of course. However, in this era, senior level positions were usually given to men. So while I was disappointed, I took the community relations job with the goal of working my way up the corporate ladder. As National Community Relations Manager, my role was to work with major Hispanic nonprofit organizations, support their conferences and causes, and I had the pleasure of working with amazing Latino leadership groups, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, LULAC, American GI Forum, National Council of La Raza, and the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. As you can see, in many instances, I was the only woman sitting at the head table. After 6 months, the Director of Hispanic Marketing was let go, given he told a few white lies on his resume, and I was able to take over the department's marketing efforts. But unfortunately, I wasn't promoted to the director position. I worked for several months to prove myself, and then mustered up the courage to meet with HR to state my case. Well, within a week, I was promoted and my salary doubled, and I officially had my dream job that included developing marketing campaigns for the Coke portfolio targeting the U.S. Hispanic market. My team and I worked with major Hispanic talent like Luis Miguel. We executed national promotions and continued working with Hispanic organizations. We also signed Selena when she was just 17 for $50,000, and she remained under contract with Coke for several years. The year before she passed, we were able to secure a 5-year, $5 million contract, given she was about to release a crossover album. But unfortunately, she was taken from us before her time. After 6 years working in Coca-Cola headquarters, I was having lunch, and the CEO came and sat at my table. Imagine my surprise. He said, "I understand you've been interviewing for international positions, but I'd like you to consider a newly developed position we're piloting, Director of Field Marketing, and we'd like you to go to Chicago." Obviously, if the CEO asks, you go, and I did. So off I went to Chicago to direct one of the largest Coke territories in the country, Coke's Midwest Division, where I led all marketing efforts for 5 major markets and honed my skills in sports marketing, given Coke had contracts with every major team, from the Packers to the Cubs, the White Sox to the Bulls, and the Bears. My responsibility also included developing marketing programs for very ethnically diverse consumer segments. During this time, unfortunately, my mother passed away. I also felt I had hit a bit of a glass ceiling and it was time to come home. This is when I made one of the biggest decisions of my life, to quit an amazing 6-figure job and move back to San Antonio to open my own marketing firm. My sister Norma and lifelong friend Alexis joined me to launch Market Vision in 1998, where within 3 months we landed our first big account with Nabisco. A few months later, we were contacted by a New York-based agency, the Coactive Group, who was interested in purchasing a small Hispanic shop. And that we were 3 Latinas, a telephone, a few computers, and 1 client. But I knew if I was going to make it, I needed the backup of a large agency partner. So I sold 49% and retained 51% majority share. And off we went. Within 2 years, we grew from billings of less than $500,000 to over $16 million. This was definitely the right decision and provided the opportunity for us to work with major Fortune 500 companies. Our partnership with Coactive lasted 6 years, but demands by the board of directors to drive shareholder value, given we were on the small stock exchange, were immense. So I decided to buy myself back. Granted, I had to pay 4 times more than what they paid, but it was worth it to be able to call the shots again, which I did, and merged with Luis Garcia, founder of Garcia 360 here in San Antonio, who I had worked with over the years and respected enormously. Today, Luis and I continue to be partners, working with both local and national accounts. and we continue to be passionate about our passion for marketing, recognized for our efforts, and working with some amazing people. Through this journey, I've followed a number of guiding principles. So one day I decided to capture them in a book of consejos, words of advice with a Latina twist. The book is called Dale Ganas. So I'd like to share one of my favorite stories. It's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. Children in playgrounds fall, and they just bounce right back up and continue playing like nothing ever happened. Children are just naturally resilient. As we get older, maintaining that resilience can be a challenge. There were times in my journey through life I fell so hard that all I wanted to do was lie there and never get up again. But where would that have gotten me? How would I have ever reached my goals? So when you get knocked down, do what you did when you were a child. Jump right back up, because not getting up is just giving up. So that's my story. From a fearless little girl to corporate America, entrepreneurship to author. And my reason for sharing was to let you know that when you want something bad enough, you can overcome your fears. And when you do, the lessons you learn along the way will help guide your life's journey.